When we come back, I've got a good feeling we're going to have a nice, clear phone line to speak with former town councillor out in Stephenville, Lenny Tiller. There are people out in that community that are not pulling any punches about how the airport saga has unfolded. Don't go away. Let's keep going. Let's see if we got a line with Lenny on 4. Lenny Tiller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
How are you today?
Not too bad, I suppose. How about you?
Not too bad. This is the third time the charm, I guess, eh?
Yeah, we're lucky. And so let's go. The Stephenville airport story, for some people it's an eye roller, but if you live out in Stephenville and you bought into the promises made by Mr. Diamond, it's a different story.
Yes, it's very much a real and everyday consequence in this town, Paddy. I mean, right from September of 2021, when this was first announced, you had a lot of excitement. You had people investing in homes, people leaving jobs to move home, thinking that this was an overnight turnaround for our town, and the have-not of Stephenville will be no more, and the sun will shine again, as the saying goes. But unfortunately, the red flags came up quick and fast and seemed to be ignored by some individuals of local leadership.
Well, let's read a quote from Bob Burns, president of the Downtown Stephenville Business Improvement Association Corporation. Tom Rose is the one who pushed this airport deal from day one. He's blaming it squarely on the mayor.
Yeah, and I think without throwing any shots at the mayor, I think Mr. Burns is right. Mr. Burns has a much deeper history with the mayor than I do, and would be more familiar with the ongoings of Tom Rose in his past and present. But as I've said on this show before, Paddy, and to CBC and anyone that would listen, the council effectively controlled any outcome that the airport board would have to do, because we controlled the purse. And then the Evening Telegram, or the Telegram, whatever it's called now, they had an interview with former chair Trevor Murphy, and he reiterated that point. Like, we were just a board asking the town for money, and we took our direction from the town. So even if we didn't want to do this, we had no choice, because the mayor would go and he would bullishly say, well, if you don't do this, we'll just cut off your money supply. So on the flip to that, when I was bringing up concerns and residents were bringing up concerns of red flags, why didn't the town step in and say, listen, we need to put a pause on this. Things don't look like they were back in September. Let's find a better way. We will keep you going to find a better way. Let's put it out to an open market, not just take the first thing that comes along. And we didn't do that. That was a direct choice by the council at the time to ignore the red flags that were brought up around the table, that were brought up by the community, and it was just full steam ahead on Mr. Diamond and Mr. Diamond alone.
And so now, even when there's an outfit from Nova Scotia looking at Stephenville, even though it's not an airport, it's a registered aerodrome, but then of course that can be changed relatively quickly. But, you know, even in conversation with Mr. Diamond, he's talked about the value of the property being somewhere in the neighborhood of $65 million compared to the $6.90 that he spent to buy it and the $1 million worth of liabilities that he covered. So is there anything in the contract that gives any power to the town of Stephenville to address the shortcomings here, to take back ownership under the Regional Airport Authority, or what's the status?
Paddy, I wish that was a question I could answer, and I asked a number of times when I sat around council to see the final contract, because out of 7 of us around the table, the mayor was the only one who was allowed to see it, as he sat as ex officio. So the mayor knew exactly what was in the contract. The mayor, I would allege, probably added some of those things and took away some of those things. And one thing I know for certain that was taken out of it was the $10 million for this fire hall we were going to need when all this ramped up. And I copied down the date. It was June 21st of 2022. CBC put out an article, and the mayor essentially said anyone who has the resources to buy a property like the Stephenville International Airport, you're not basically going to nickel and dime them for $10 million. And he was okay with a corporate guarantee. The funny thing was, the mayor has an MBA, so he knows the difference of what a letter of intent is, what an MOU is, and what a legally binding document is, more than I would have known at the time. But through research, you could see where this was going. The airport was saying, we need to keep this in here because the town deserves a return. When it looked like things were taking too long and the red flags were coming up, why did we as a town or a council or certain members of council go to the airport board and say, take that out? We'll send her for a letter of intent. And right from the start, Paddy, it was always get your assurances up front. That was always my big thing. Yes, something needs to happen with the airport. Yes, we can't continue to support it, but we have to do it in a way that keeps the residents first in mind and protecting their investment, even if it was pennies on the dollar. We got nothing in return, Paddy, except for a headache, divisiveness, and a council that showed no empathy, even to today, to the workers at the airport. The CERT Center is closed with no power, and, I mean, their future is up in the air. And then we got the town putting out a press release saying how happy they are that a company from Nova Scotia wants to almost like a hostile takeover an airport after Mr. Diamond told me he wasn't interested. If the town has no role to play, we sold our stake. Our stake came in a negotiation process. We had 2.5 years to stop this and ignored it. So the only stake that we have in the game now is to try to sit down with Marine Institute to see if there's a better location we can put there if the locks go on the door. There's a restaurant there that thankfully is still open on their own power. Maybe we have to help them find a location. There's workers at the airport who struggle every day wondering if they're going to receive a paycheck or not. The town had many times to intervene. It's not when the thing is owned by a private market, it's when you start to intervene. I mean, if they want to intervene, work with the government to find a new spot for Marine Atlantic in the town. Try to help those workers out some way they can. But our time to intervene has long passed.
It's dreadful. I mean, we can talk about the mayor's role in this and council's role in this, but when people are feeling like there's desperation setting in, and regarding the operations of the airport in Stephenville, it did feel like there was desperation setting in. And, money's coming from council to keep the doors open at the airport. And so consequently, and this happens to the best of folks, when you feel that way and something comes along that presents as a savior, then unfortunately, that's when bad decisions are happening. You got to really shelve desperation and use pragmatism, which obviously in this case was not applied. Because even when the announcement was made, even those who are not necessarily built as cynics, it was just so lofty. $500 million, all these thousands of jobs and all these futuristic drones, which were not even a thing anywhere in the world at that time. It kind of felt like, the whole thing about if it sounds too good to be true, probably is, and exactly right.
Exactly. I always used to say that desperation breeds delusion, and that's not a fault of anybody, Paddy. We are a town of an aging population who, since the mill is closed, have had out-migration like we've never seen. And yes, we're still standing. Yes, we are a resilient town. But when you're a town like ours, it's very important that you do everything you can, even when it looks like there's a savior coming, to make sure that it is the savior the town needs. And unfortunately, we didn't do that.
And so, last one. So now what? I mean, until there's a willing partner in Mr. Diamond, then we are just going to see this for the foreseeable future, or till the end of time where there is no progress. So what now?
For myself, Paddy, if I was still at council or in the mayor's seat, this is what I would propose the town start to do. You sit down with Marine Institute and beg for forgiveness for ever getting yourself involved with this, for one. Try to find a new location or see if there's a way we can keep that location open at the airport. The second thing we do is sit down with Air Ambulance and come up with a better contingency plan, see if there's somewhere we can put a landing strip in Stephenville. There is one out in Barsford Brook, but I think is privately owned, hasn't been used in a long time, that was used by the gypsum plant. And I believe there's one in Codroy. Now, it's unfortunate we would have to look at that, but for the interim, that might be the only sustainable thing to do until things at the airport get figured out. The next thing council needs to do is to come up with two plans, should do. And what I would do if I was mayor or on council is we need to look at a 5-year plan looking out of what do we look like without an airport. If it's gone and it's written off, what are we going to look like in 5 years without an airport? What do we look like in 5 years if this turns around? And hopefully in a best case scenario, both of those plans can meet in the middle somewhere and we can start to thrive again. We don't need every res community wishes they could have 5,000 jobs. I wish we could have that. But Paddy, what we need right now is sustainability, realism, and bringing this community back together.
Lenny, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Paddy.
My pleasure. Take good care.
You too.
Bye-bye.